Thanks, thanks, Kevin. You actually mentioned many of the important statistics I was going to mention, so you've saved me a task, but I will add some others. It was a distinguished Ohioan who 65 years ago led the way to amend the National Labor Relations Act to allow states the opportunity to decide whether their workers would be forced to participate in an environment where they were compelled to join a labor organization, a labor union, or not. And the right to work provisions of the Taft-Hartley Act of 1947 are responsible for 23 states in the Union currently having provisions that say, in effect, you may or you may not, if you choose, belong to a labor union, pay dues to the labor union, support the political activities of the labor union, or whatever. That is up to you as an individual. 23 states have this right to work provisions, including our neighbor Indiana, who recently became one of the states. These states constitute 42% of the population of our nation. So the nation is divided into two groups, those with these laws and those without. In this study, we looked at, let's compare the two groups of states, those with right to work laws, those without. Let's look at the evidence. Put ideology aside, let's just look at the facts. The context of this, as Kevin mentioned, of course, is the slow growth of Ohio over the last few decades. Indeed, if I'm an economic historian, I could carry this back to 1940, if you want to go way back. In 1940, 1945, or even 1900. In 1900, we were 10, 12% above the national average in income per capita. Now we're 10, 12% below the the nation in income per capita. And almost all of this happened in the second half of the 20th century and the first decade of the 21st century. So something happened in Ohio where we lost our economic advantage. I could mention a lot of statistics. I'll only mention two or three. From 1977 to 2008, the number of jobs nationally doubled. In Ohio, it went up by a little over 1/3, 35%. Nation, 100%, Ohio, 35%. Jobs weren't being created as fast or robustly in the Buckeye state. I can look, and in the report I don't think mentions this. Let's look at Fortune 500 companies. 42 of them were headquartered in Ohio in 1994, not that long ago, 18 years ago. 27 are now. We've lost 15 companies in, 17, 18 years, almost 20 years. NCR went from Dayton to Atlanta, for example, just to pick one recent example. So we are, in this context, what do? We look at tax policies, we look at regulatory policies, we look at environmental policies, we do a lot of things. But one thing we do is look at our labor laws. And Ohio has this opportunity. So what is the evidence? States with right to work laws have had higher rates of growth in per capita income, total income, jobs than other states. The reason, fairly simple. Employers perceive it more costly to do business in non-right-to-work states. Rightly or wrongly, that's what they perceive, and that perception leads to their actions. And as a consequence, resources have moved from states like Ohio, and Michigan, and other Midwest industrial states to the states in the Union, a large number of them which are in the South and in the West, that have these right-to-work laws. So we have had a massive out-migration of resources, human resources, capital resources, from the Buckeye state. This is a way to address that issue. The situation, I think, has actually become more critical for Ohio as a consequence of Indiana's passing a law recently, in the last couple of months, I joked, I don't know if the governor did, I told him he should have signed the bill during the Super Bowl and really gotten a lot of attention to the issue. It was right about that time that the bill passed the Indiana legislature. It is an issue that is under consideration in several other Midwest states. I know this because I've received telephone calls from people telling me that it's underway. And in Michigan, it's going to be an issue that's probably going to be on the ballot. It's definitely an issue in Minnesota right now. So it is an issue that is getting more and more attention. Two last points. The nature of trade unionism in the United States has changed dramatically over time. We have to acknowledge that. At one time, virtually everyone in unions were in the private sector, working in manufacturing and so forth. Now about half of our union membership is in the public sector. That's just a factoid I'm throwing out. That's something that has to be remembered in these discussions, that we have had that change over time. Also, unionization has itself become much less important in America, in the sense that the percentage of Americans belonging to union, in spite of the pro-union legislation that exists, that proportion has fallen from about 35% of the population to nationally around 12%, in Ohio around 14% of the population in modern times. The report has the precise statistic. Ohio has actually had a slightly larger drop in union membership and vibrancy than the nation as a whole in recent times, but like in so many other things, the Buckeye State is really fairly in the middle. We're middle American in so many ways, and this one is as well. So this is the context of the report. Why do I have personally no feelings ahead of time on this. I have relatives of mine who are labor union leaders, progressive leaders of the Democratic Party in pro-union Michigan. I come from a background that is sympathetic to labor unions, but I look at the evidence, and the evidence is compelling. The evidence is that right